Hello, good day to you. My name is Evan, the person behind this channel all this while. Glad you can join us in this video where we'll be interviewing an origami master, Ronald Koh. Alright, by the way, we are not related. Maybe 500 years ago we are. Okay, thank you for accepting this interview. Okay. Because this is an origami channel, the interview will of course be on origami as the main theme. Yeah, my earliest memory of you, we met in 2014. That's my first visit to these origami meetups. Yeah, then I remember Ivan was like telling me, do you know who is Ronald Koh? Yeah, I remember his Ankylosaurus in some publication. Yeah, I don't know how he's like, nah? It's like, whoa! Oh, he's right in front of me. Amazing, yeah. So, that's how I started, very alone, doing origami by myself. So a lot of us, we do origami in isolation. In the beginning, it's a very lonely endeavor. We don't see, we don't mingle a lot. Is that the same experience for you?
Yes, basically it's the same. But my introduction into folding origami is quite different from most people.
Oh, in what sense?
It has to do with my childhood now. I'm going to disclose something that I have never disclosed before. That was from my early childhood. I used to stammer very badly, to the extent that it affected my sense of worth. You see, the problem was further made worse by my going to what at that time was known as a sort of elite school, where the students came from fairly rich backgrounds. They were not very sensitive to people with shortcomings. I used to stammer badly, and to the extent that I avoided asking questions in class. Whenever I stood up in class for anything at all, I would be met with a whole lot of laughter. And because of that kind of background, I tended to do things by myself, for myself. And I sort of looked out for activities that I can do on my own. Origami happens to be one of them.
Nice, amazing. So, actually, when did you start doing origami?
Actually, that is a bit difficult to answer because I was doing it from a very early childhood. My grandmother, who was living with us part of the time, taught me some basic models. You know, the traditional things like the paper boats, the flapping bird. And from there, I stuck with those basic folds until I think it was early 1970s. There was a series that was shown on our local TV station. It was called Mr. Right and Mr. Left by Robert Harbin. That was when I was introduced to the more involved aspects of origami. It was still fairly simple then, but that was the time when my eyes were open to the possibility of origami. I followed the program from beginning to end, and when the series ended, I just by chance came across Robert Harbin's book. It was known as The Secrets of Origami. That was the only book on sale at the shop. I saw it. I had the exact amount of cash on me to buy the book. I bought the book and didn't have money left for bus fare home. So I walked back home from the shop, all 3 odd miles. And that book opened up the whole world of origami to me.
Wow, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So is it right to say that if you did not purchase that book, the origami will not know Ronald Koh today?
Well, probably not at that time. That was the start.
Okay.
From that book, I managed to get the addresses of the British Origami Society, and what was then known as the Friends of the Origami Center of America. That was the forerunner of the present Origami USA. From there, I managed to write to them. The recipients of my letters were very kind. They recommended more books, which they sold, and I ordered, and I managed to buy several more books. From then on, the book collection just started growing. I have about 850 books now.
Oh, amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, so later we'll take a look at it. Yes. Yeah, also pretty interested in how your career life was like.
Well, by the time when I started working, I had overcome my stammering to a large extent. I managed to, it was quite okay, but I started off working with Singapore Post, that is the Postal Authority of Singapore, and it didn't take me long to become the postmaster. So I had a complement about 6 clerical staff and about 17, 18 postmen to work. So it was quite daunting, but in that sense, where work was concerned, that was when I really started to learn to work with others. Before that, I was largely a loner, so it was okay.
Okay, good. Very amazing. I need like tips on how do you overcome stammering?
It just came because the problem with my stammering, I was told by my early doctors, it was a neurological defect. So the brain sort of healed itself, you know. But certain aspects of life later on triggered it again. So I had to overcome it not once or twice, but a few times. You know, when I'm faced with some trauma, it tends to trigger back. But each time I just managed to soldier on.
Oh, amazing. Nice. So it's just in time for your work.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you were working with the post office all the way.
I actually went up the ladder, so to speak, taking up courses on my own and advancing. So by the time I retired, I was working in the head office and administrative positions. At the same time, I was involved a bit on the IT the development systems thing, and I was also put in charge, rather, of innovative thinking. You know, I had to dissect our work processes, the SOP, as they call it now, to see where the inefficiencies that can be improved on each step of the way. And I think my involvement in origami played a big part in it, where in origami design, we often come across stages where we find ourselves sort of stuck, you know, where we have to figure out how to get over certain problems. So my work then was basically the same thing. I had to overcome all that. So it placed me sort of in a win-win case.
So origami complemented your work
Yes.
in the form of the systematic procedural thinking.
Yes.
Nice. So since retirement, how was your retirement life like? So you can further aspire towards it also.
My retirement did not really take off as I planned. Because when I first retired, I thought that was an opportunity to develop origami further. I could invest more of my time into the designing aspects. I also wanted to go into writing, but I made the mistake of having holiday plans immediately on retirement. I didn't want to get back into any serious endeavors. So I retired in 2006. Unfortunately, in 2009, when I was just about to get into the serious business of things, I had a stroke. Now that was my third stroke. My first two strokes was in 2002 and 2005. That set me back quite a bit. But when I had this stroke in 2009, I was what they would say hemiplegic. I was paralyzed from my left side down, and I happened to be left-handed. So that was quite a tragedy. My first thought was that the stroke was going to derail my plans completely. There was no way I could get back to folding. But I had family and friends who thought otherwise. One of my friends, Francis Lau, heard me grumbling that that's the end of my origami life, and he looked hard at me and said, "What are you talking about?" And he took out 2 packets of origami paper from his bag and dumped it on my tummy. There, fold. This is fold something. So the 2 packets of paper went on my side table there in hospital. It stayed there for about 2 days only, because I couldn't think of being able to fold anything with my non-dominant right hand. It doesn't work that way. But one day I was so bored that just lying down in bed, doing nothing and dreaming and thinking of negative thoughts. I decided, I got nothing to lose. Reached out for the paper, took out 1 sheet, folded some nonsense, crumbled it up, threw it away, took out another one, and another, and another. Eventually, I managed to fold something very, very simple. It was a traditional fold, and one of Yoshizawa's butterflies.
With your non-master hand.
It was presentable, so the nurses saw it, they liked it. One of the nurses down there asked me, "Can I have it?" So I said, "Oh, take it. I got plenty of paper here still." So I folded some more. And then at that time, I thought that just by coincidence, just before my stroke, I was given a book by Michael LaForce. He presented me the book. It was on his butterflies. And just before I had the stroke, I was actually folding from that book. So, folding Akira Yoshizawa's butterflies, I thought, hey, that butterfly used only 3/4 of the paper to form the butterfly. The other quarter of the paper was simply wasted. It was further under, or in some cases, you can cut it away. The paper that was used for the butterfly actually came from a 3x4 portion of a square. So I thought of using some of LaForce's ideas to use the remaining quarter of the paper to create patterns on the wings of the butterflies. So I did that, it worked. Not very original, but it was something that was not done. So from there on, I could, using different proportions of that 1/4 spare and a different approach, I found that I could literally create hundreds of different butterflies. So, but I didn't do all that in hospital. I was there for 40 days. But basically, I was trying to fold other things, like I also had a cat by Roman Diaz. His cat was folded from a strip of paper, So all I had was A4 size paper from the hospital pamphlets. I tore away the square to fold butterflies with, but the remaining strip that was cut off, I could use that to fold Diaz's cat. So I tried that. It worked, And as usual, some of the nurses liked it. Some of the other patients liked it. Some of the visitors to the other patients liked it. So the butterflies, and cats, and whatever I could fold up with my non-dominant hand were all taken up. And the best part, these people who accepted my pieces of origami, they did not just take it and go away. They came back with extra paper they bought. So eventually I left the hospital with more packets of origami paper than anybody else brought in. So the therapists also noticed that I like doing origami, and they encouraged me. They said, you are no doubt using only your non-dominant hand to fold, but do you know that your dominant hand, the stroke fractured hand, also has a role to play. Every time you use your non-dominant hand to fold, if you put your dominant hand on the table or use the hand in whatever way you can, you are sending messages to the hand that it has a role to play. That although it may be just lying down there dormant, it sort of knows that it has a role to play, and that helps build the connections, the synapses in the brain. So they told me, each time you fold with your right hand, pick up your left hand, dump it on the table, and fold with the hand done there. And if you can find some way to use it, do it. Even if you are using it to weigh the paper down. So that was the first thing I did. Every time I folded, this was a paperweight. So I used that for about 40 days until my discharge. That was what I did. But when I came home, I could lay my hands on my books. Then I figured out there are some other ways to fold simple things. I did most of the time using LaForce ideas. And to even go further than that, I had to develop a number of bases that allowed me to utilize the extra strip of paper for the designs better. So after I left hospital for about the first few years after that, I folded most of the butterflies. It came to well over the 100 designs. So at that time I didn't think of publishing, because those were actually my therapeutic products, not meant to be publicized or anything, just the product that I gave away freely. And I think some of the ideas that I should have kept for future use, but I gave away and soon forgot how that was done. So that was the beginning of my comeback.
I see. So that retirement, then after that, this happened. So do you have any words of encouragement for any of the viewers who also are suffering from any like physical ailments?
You see, a lot of it has to do with the mind. The main thing about overcoming such mishaps in life is that you should not be sorry for yourself. Don't take a negative view. Look at the positive side. What has happened has happened. Don't take it as a loss, but take it as a challenge to come back from. It's not impossible. It's difficult, yes, but you persevere. And I'm not saying that it cannot recover 100%. It can recover still substantially, enough for you to make the best of what is left of your life.
Nice, amazing.
Yeah, it's possible. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Certain things that you feel you can't do now, think of ways of doing it. There are other ways around it. Not every problem is insurmountable.
Nice, amazing. Yeah, this is also next question will be something that I'm also very curious about. How do you juggle origami, pursuing origami, mainly in like folding other people's models or designing your own during your school time as well as your work?
Well, during my school time, I didn't do any designing, so I was basically folding the works of others. But what I did was, when I fold other people's work, I remember certain steps which I would say are quite innovative, and I keep them. I used to have a number of boxes actually of half folded work that I purposely left half folded because it came to that stage where I felt that by folding Mr. A's model to step 22, there are many other problems that I saw then that I can use from this step to diverse into forming other models. So what I did was I kept the folds up to that present step only, where possibilities exist, and I left handwritten notes. With those days we did have plastic bags, so I had to leave this partially folded paper with handwritten notes, nicely wrapped up in paper envelopes, and kept to one side. That was what I was doing for years until about 1960s to late 60s, when I finally managed to fold something that was a derivative of other people's work. I derived from there, and I took notes. This from step one to step one, whatever it is, was based on someone's work. From that time on, from this step to the next, whatever it is, number of steps was my own. So I kept all this for years. I could do that because I was basically folding on my own. Now, it would be good if I had somebody else that we can share thoughts, ideas with. But I was basically alone because at that time, not many people were interested in origami. In our culture, many people still thought of origami as children's playthings, not to be taken seriously. So that stigma stayed with me I'm doing something that is supposed to be for children, but I'm growing up already. But I'm still keen on it. Better don't let people know.
Suppress it, right?
Yes.
It happens to
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
all of us, right? Yeah. Yeah. How do you juggle your work life with your origami, especially when you're in leadership position?
That's the funny part, because my position actually left me a lot of time during the day. I was basically only doing visionary work. Now, as far as the postmen are concerned, they will depart on the delivery rounds at about maybe 9-10 o'clock. And from there, I don't see them. I'm not involved with them. So my time is relatively free. And I have my counter staff, but they are all working in front of me. I have a office of my own behind the counter with a big glass window that allows me to see and hear what is going on. You know? So most of the time, except for the usual office work, there will be pockets of time when, 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I could actually fiddle and I can explore some ideas on my own. I have a drawer in the office specifically for my partially folded work.
Okay. Wow. So it's you make time, right? You don't make
Yes.
excuses, right? Yeah. So it's always your brain is always thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
My working hours are long. I normally start out at about 7 a.m. and I don't finish all until about 5:30 to 6:30. But I have a long lunch break also. So the lunch break was from 2 hours to 3 hours. So that's my folding time.
Okay, how do you start designing your origami? You mentioned that also you study other people's work, so it's a very academic pursuit, the way you document
Yeah.
things, and how do you take it from there? Like, especially when at your time there's no ODS available.
Yes. Actually, if you look at it this way, ODS is not really new. Robert Lang did a masterful job of gathering all the ideas behind designing origami design and presented it in a very logical way. The ideas behind his book, were actually not new, but it was presented well, and it taught what many people were doing in a non-structured way. They sort of did step 1, step 5, step 8, and not mentioning step 3 or 4. So basically, I was doing it that way in an unstructured way. But reading that is Origami Design Secrets. Actually, it presented the action plans very well, especially the mathematical side. Most of us were doing basically the same thing, but did not associate the mathematics aspect to it. When he brought in the mathematics aspect, it made a lot of sense, made us understand what we were doing in a more structured way.
Nice. Okay. So who were the biggest influence of your origami life? What lessons did you learn from these people?
Actually, there were many people over the years. I think the most important aspect of origami, which I learned from my early association with people like Frederick Rom, Nick Elias, and to a certain extent by the Japanese folders was that the tradition of origami is built on patience. You got to have patience, you got to have respect, and you have persistence. Those are things that are not seemingly not well entrenched in the origami practitioners today, sad to say. Many people want to do origami without understanding the basics of it. For instance, how many of us have often bought origami books and we delve straight into the diagrams for specific models and bypassing the introductory pages, the thoughts behind the pages? How many newcomers to origami give up as soon as they get stuck on a book? Why? Because they do not bother with the page that says basics of origami and symbols and what the symbols mean. So many of them. I want to fold this. You don't want to learn the basics. You want to run before you can crawl. Then we find that the idea of respect of the elders, of the forerunners, today is not very well entrenched. You get people going on the internet producing tutorials without mentioning who or what designed that specific model. They simply grab, no respect to the owners, produce tutorials, make a few miserable dollars from it, and they think they're great. So many of them. That is, to me, that is a very sad thing. Because I know of many famous and would-be famous designers who have themselves gave up because they find that it's not worth their time to think and come up with the ideas that they have for somebody else simply come swooping down and taking it without even respecting them for their work.
Yeah, so this is a topic on plagiarism,
Yes.
copyright. So through the years, any methods on how we are able to protect ourselves from this?
You see, the plagiarism, I think, and this copyright protection has to start from the very top. And actually, the trouble with the people who can really help nullify the process are simply not doing anything about it. For instance, you take YouTube, Google. They are not interested in coming down hard on infringers of a copyright. Why? Because that affects their bottom line. They don't want to try to put a stop to anything that can relate to a loss of business for them, right? So if other people want to plagiarize, let them, so long as their plagiarism adds to the bottom line. So to me, this problem will not be curtailed so long as the people who actually benefit from this plagiarism comes up firm and puts a stop to it. Now, I have my work plagiarized on YouTube. You approach to Google, they say, not my business. You deal with that chap. The plagiarizer says, nah, you can't do a thing to me. Why? Because international legal action is very expensive, and it doesn't make sense for me to spend thousands of dollars to sue somebody thousands of miles away who probably lives in a shack, rides a bicycle to work, and can't afford to pay his water bills. You sue him, what for? See? This is the facts of life. The only thing that can be done is that if Google takes a stand and say no, this work that you produce without permission belongs to somebody else, we are not going to show it. So long as that is not done, there's really nothing we can do.
After being in the origami world for decades, so what do you hope to see in origami world moving forward? And also, what kind of trends do you see over origami design? What are your thoughts?
You see, in the old days, most origami designs were based on known bases. We had the 4 early bases: the fish base, the frog base, and all that. But the later incarnation of origami, they have gone into multiple designs of bases. They have specific bases for specific models, and that in a way is good because you are not constrained by the basic designs of the paper. You can design a new vase that allows more greater possibilities. But the problem with present day designers, and there are many of them, is that their designs are based on somebody else's business. They don't think of their own way of getting around problems. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. That can be a good thing, but acknowledge what you're basing on. That is the way to grow origami forward. Then somebody like a future Robert Lang can come in and make sense of all these divergence. Instead of trying to trace the roots of every model to an unknown past.
So if you could talk to a younger version of yourself just starting out origami, what would you say? So this is also like, what kind of advice will you give to young folders who aspire to be like yourself?
Actually, nothing much. I would say go back to your roots. Start from the beginning. Understand the culture behind it. Understand the approach. Then you will really appreciate it more. Rather than taking somebody else's crease pattern, mangling it a bit here and there, come up something that you think is original and claiming originality for it. I find that many of these people, in the end, don't go anywhere. They get lost. After a year or two, they give up. Why? How many origami artists today have actually followed the origami trend for years? How many of the designers today were designing origami 10 years ago and will do it for, say, 10 more years further? Not many.
Because they have not exercised that muscle yet.
Yeah.
If you were to start like your origami journey in today's era with all the technology and communication, so how different will you engage origami as compared to the past?
I will reach out for a book, one book like Robert Lang's Origami Design Secrets. That actually is a condensation of all my efforts and time I spent many years past. He has condensed all that experience into one single book. And study that book, please.
Now there is a
Understand-
ODS tool already
Yes,
here.
yes.
Which of your many original design origami are you proudest of and why?
Actually, there are none. There may be designs I were happy with at that time, but as time goes on, another design takes its place. And another one, and another one.
Keep moving forward.
Yes, you are happy with one until you come across something else.
So I heard you have a origami book series called the Anthology of Ronald Koh,
Yes.
currently in the works as we speak. So can we show that one?
Volume 1.
Okay. Could you share a little of what we might expect to
Actually,
see?
Volume 1 is not new. It is a republication of my first foray into writing origami books. This was a republication of my Origami Goldfish book that was published in 2002. This one was an enlarged version comprising the models in the 2002 book plus another 6 that were not published. So it's an enlarged version. So the next one, this is the draft of the cover. Yep, nothing here. Anyway, it's largely this is chapter 1. It is based largely on my origami designs that I did as a result and after my stroke, 2009. The first chapter is here. This will be largely on the butterflies designs. I sought the permission of Michael LaForce to publish this, although I really did not have to, because the butterflies were quite different from his. But since I piggybacked on his ideas and used some of it, I thought it was only fair that I get his permission to use that, and he very graciously gave it. Now, some of the butterflies in this book were named after the people who helped me in my recovery. And the first chapter is on the butterflies. The second chapter will be on some of the more involved origami that I created during the period after my stroke, when I was in a better condition. It was the idea behind it is to present the origami models progressively as in tandem with my recovery. Now, the second and third chapters will comprise about maybe 10, I haven't finalized it, to 15 models that were designed after the stroke, and some of the models, the more complex models that I reworked after that. The idea behind it was that this book was to be used as an encouragement to other survivors of similar illnesses, and to serve as a what you call encouragement to these people that all is not lost. It's still possible to carry on. Now the third and fourth volume is still in the air, but the idea behind that was to introduce, to present all my life's work, all the designs, but that would be a big take, because there's some designs that I can't even remember now.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
It happens to all of us. Yeah. If you don't document it, it's going to be lost somewhere. Okay, so lastly, how would you like the origami world to remember you moving forward?
In no particular way. I mean, I'm basically a simple person. I don't consider myself a master at all. I'm just a person who enjoys folding paper. And I think that is the best way to be remembered.
Yes, as a person who enjoys folding paper.
Yeah, that's all.
And that is all. We concluded all the questions. Thank you so much once again for sharing your thoughts, allowing us to pick your brains, let people, our viewers know a little bit of you. And if you have any question, you can post it in the comment section below. If you like similar contents like this, you can like, comment, subscribe, share. And also special thanks to Ivan, who is behind the camera. Yeah, hello.
Now I'm in front of the camera. Hi guys.
Yeah, so his socials will be in the link, will be shared in the comment section below. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
Can I say something else before we depart? I want to apologize for my speech because I'm still having problems with my stammering now. The stammering has not gone away totally, although it went away substantially until I had a stroke in 2009. That was my third stroke. And I recovered from that stroke, speech-wise, quite well until 2018. I fell, fractured my hip bone, had a replacement surgery, and all the problems came back. But now I am slowly working towards complete recovery for the stroke. So wish me luck. Thank you.
Wish you the best of luck. Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So you finished reading all of them?
I need another lifetime.
Very, very impressive collection. If I strike 4D, I will stay in this room. Strike Toto.